So it's basically been confirmed that we'll be having bards in patch 8 for Baldur's Gate 3, and I thought it would be a good idea to make a detailed patch preparation guide so you guys have an idea of how to build them when the patch inevitably drops during the panel from hell this week, since it almost always drops right after the panel anyway. This is going to be a very in-depth guide that takes from the D&D 5e handbook, but also takes into consideration what's already available in the BG3 files, and what's likely to be added. I'm also going to go over the 3 bard colleges I think are very likely to be included and what their specialties are, as well as the best skills to pick per level. Okay, let's get started. So why play a bard in the first place? Bards are really, really good at rolling the dice. You can get so many buffs to your rolls that it can actually get pretty difficult to fail a roll, especially if you pick Friendship as a cantrip and take Shadowheart along with you for her added guidance or double dice bonus. A bard is the essential jack of all trades. They can spellcast, melee, buff, and heal. They can really do it all in terms of support, which makes them invaluable to any adventuring party. And to top it all off, you get to carry around a lute and sing. Well, at least I hope eventually you'll be able to do that, because a bard just isn't a bard without a lute. Although, I guess technically Volo doesn't have a lute, but we always boo him off the stage anyway.
I never...
Alright, so let's build our bard. I'm using an existing bard mod as a visual guide to go over some of the class basics. So the first thing to consider is what race to pick. Like Warlock and Sorcerer, Bard is a charisma-based class, so your best starter race is going to be one of the following. Tiefling, which gets a +2 charisma, as well as Burning Hands, or Searing Smite at level 3, depending on which subrace you take. Smite is for the Asmodeus Tiefling, and Burning Hands is for the Mistopheles one. There's also a half-elf, which gets a +2 charisma, as well as 1 additional point and 2 different stats. So imagine you want to have higher dex and constitution, you can get +2 to charisma and +1 to dex, and +1 to constitution, which are all the 3 best starter stats for a bard. If you choose a high half-elf, you can also choose a cantrip. I'd say my personal favorite for long range is Fireball, and if you plan to go more melee, then you should pick Shock and Grasp. Both races have Dark Vision too, which is incredibly helpful for actually being able to hit in dark areas. Arguably, you could also go into races with Dex included, but I'm just going for the highest charisma races for the sake of this guide, so we don't waste too much time talking nuance. Now let's talk starting spell choices. For cantrips, I'd say Vicious Mockery is a must. It's your de facto, I've run out of spell slots and I must do damage still spell. As for your second cantrip, I would say Friends, because it'll give you advantage on persuasion rolls. Choosing level 1 spells is a little more difficult because there are so many good ones, but there are a couple must-haves. Dissonant Whispers, because it's just good. It's flat out your highest single target DPS at this level. And Healing Word is really invaluable for combat reses and general healing utility. You've still got 2 more slots though, and there are a lot of good choices, so pick what works best for you out of the following. Thunder Wave is just awesome for AoE knockback. There's Speak with Animals, and there are a lot of animals that you can speak to in this game. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is really good single target CC. Sleep works as an AoE CC, and it's really good at a low level. And there's also Fairy Fire, which just seems to work a little bit better than Bane in most cases, and it'll also actually pull stealth units out of stealth. In my case, I'm going to pick Dissonant Whispers, Healing Word, Thunder Wave, and Speak with Animals. Moving on to skill proficiencies, Persuasion is always great, especially with all the added bonus rolls you're going to get towards it. But also anything that has a charisma bonus to it is going to give you a better roll when actually picking it in dialogue. Like Deception, you can see, is charisma based, Intimidation, Persuasion, as I already mentioned, and even Performance. As a bard, you'll have access to so many proficiencies though, so don't worry too much about it. Now onto stats. Stats are pretty simple. You want to pump as much into charisma as possible. Your next highest stat should be Dex and put the rest into Constitution. In this case, I'm going to take the in out and bump it into other stats. You should be able to get your charisma up to 17, your Dex to 15, and 13 into Constitution as a tiefling. I like to throw 1 extra point into intelligence just because of firebolt. I don't know if it really matters too much though. As a high elf, you can do even a little bit better, and by taking that extra point and putting it into Dex and Constitution, you can actually come out with 16 Dex and 14 Constitution. So you do a little bit better in that case. So that's it. You're ready to play now. And gameplay is pretty simple at level 1. As soon as you load into the game, you're going to want to switch out your dagger for a rapier. Currently, with the mod, you actually have a rapier in your inventory and simply have to equip it. But if I had to guess, larian will likely make it your starting weapon. So this might be a dead point to make by then. Dissonant Whispers is going to be your main damage spell, and when it runs out, you can fall back on Vicious Mockery. But since it's low DPS, you should also consider getting a crossbow ASAP so that you can guard your low HP pool by standing back and using someone like lae'zel to meet shield for you. Using the rapier in the meantime isn't going to be a bad thing though. You can also use your new bard skill, Bardic Inspiration, to buff your companions by giving them a d6 bonus to ability, attack, or skill rolls for 3 rounds, which is pretty sweet. You'll hit level 2 pretty quickly, and you'll get 2 new bard-specific skills. Jack of all trades gives you a +1 bonus to all skill checks, which is really nice. And Song of Rest gives you 50% more HP when taking a short rest. You'll also get to choose a new level 1 spell, and I would suggest just taking whatever you didn't get in the first time. In my case, I already had taken Tasha's Hideous Laughter in this particular playthrough, and so I just simply added on Speak with Animals. Like warlocks, bards also have the option to replace an older spell if you find it just doesn't work for you. So if you didn't like Tasha's, you could just pick up anything else over here, and that would work. When you hit level 3, there's a lot to go over. First, you'll finally get to choose a subclass, and there are 3 subclasses available on the mod currently. I think there's a really good chance that they'll all be in the game when patch 8 launches. If Glamour is not available, I can practically guarantee you that Lore and Valor will be. So let's talk bard colleges and what the different subclasses have to offer. Valor bards are the melee ruffians of the group. They get an added medium armor, martial weapon, and shield proficiency, which means you can really get your AC up and become quite beefy. They're meant to get in melee, and while they won't fully shine in early access, they can get quite nasty with later subclass perks. They also get combat inspiration, which allows them to use bardic inspiration points to inspire a companion or creature, which rolls a die, and the number rolled will be added to their weapon damage. In D&D, you can also use it to add to a companion's AC instead, but I'm not sure if they're going to include this in BG3 or not. Then you have the Lore Bards. Their main gimmick is a skill called Cutting Words. It allows you to use your Bardic Inspiration to reduce the enemy's roll by 1d6 for 1 round. So this is really good for making sure a spell is going to land. For instance, if you want to make sure you hold a powerful enemy while you try to combat res one of your companions, you'll have a much better chance of containing them with a spell like Hold if you use Cutting Words first. You can also combo it by letting your wizard cast the hold spell on their turn instead of yours. You'll also have access to higher tier wizard spells later on, like Fireball, my personal favorite, and you'll get 3 extra bonus proficiencies to choose here as well, meaning you can pick anything that you didn't already have. Glamour bards might not make it into the patch, but I'm going to include them just in case they do. As you can see, they're already implemented in the mod, so it's very possible we'll get them as well. Glamour bards get 2 college-specific perks. One is Mantle of Inspiration, which is a pretty amazing skill. It's a total fight swinger that grants every ally who can see you 5 HP and gives them double movement speed, and allows them to ignore enemy attacks of opportunity for 1 round. That's a lot for 1 skill. They also get another skill called Enthralling Performance, which acts like the spell Charm. In the game currently, it seems to be acting like an AoE charm, but I'm not sure how that's going to end up when the official patch drops. It'll probably revert to a single target like it is in the handbook if I had to guess. All of the colleges are good in their own right, but because I'm a sucker for casters, my main suggestion as of current is to go Lore. I will definitely let you know if my opinion changes once the official patch drops, and I do plan to make an updated guide reflecting any changes as well. Along with level 3 also comes more expertise, allowing the bard to pick any 2 skill proficiencies and double them. That means you can add that bonus to your rolls, and at these low levels it can be as much as +3 depending on the roll type. For instance, if you pick Persuasion, and then later pick a dialogue persuasion check that requires a roll, you'll get an added +3 from that persuasion. Now let's talk what spells to pick at level 3, since you now have access to level 2 spells. Hands down, a must-have for shattering AoE is Shatter. If you've ever actually used this spell in-game, you know what I'm talking about. It's invaluable at taking out large clumps of goblins in the camp and really just AoEing any clump of enemies down. Since you only get one new spell at this level, it's also possible to go in and get rid of one of your level 1 spells in favor of a fancy new level 2 spell. For instance, you could get rid of Tasha's and replace it with Hold, or even Silence, which is an incredibly helpful AoE, especially for the hag fight. It's up to you, but regardless of what you choose to do with replacements, you really need to make sure you get Shatter here, and if you replace anything, replace Speak with Animals or Tasha's for Hold or Silence. Whew, that covers just about everything for level 3. That only leaves level 4, which thankfully has a lot less to go over, but also introduces feats, so let's talk about everything available there too. First off, you can choose one new spell here free of charge, and also replace a single spell if you'd rather take something else. Here are my level 2 spell recommendations in terms of usefulness. By now you should already have Shatter, so I'm not going to talk about how amazing it is again. I mean, I just did, but anyway. Enhance ability really assists your teammates on difficult checks. Hold Person I already mentioned, and its CC is just great for keeping enemies from attacking you. Invisibility can be very, very powerful if you're using it right, and Silence I also already mentioned, it's game breaking against enemies like the Hag. I'm personally going to go for a spell book including Dissonant Whispers, Thunder Wave, Healing Word, Speak with Animals, Hold Person, and Shatter. And I just picked up Silence on this level. But for a maximum slate of useful spells, you could drop Speak with Animals, now that you've already talked to a lot of them so far, and pick up Enhance Ability instead. It really depends on what you think you're more likely to use. There are only so many level 2 spell slots though, and you're very likely going to be saving them for Shatter. Now let's talk feats, or ability improvements. Choosing a straight increase to charisma will never do you wrong, but be aware that you only get increases at certain points. For instance, at 18 points, you'll get +4 to charisma based rolls, but if you just get to 19, you won't get anything extra for it. Now, if instead you want to go with a feat, there are some that could be really useful for bards. Let's talk about some of them. Magic Initiate Warlock could be really awesome considering you can get Eldritch Blast and Armor of Agathis. These spells all use charisma as a modifier, so it really complements a bard well. And imagine having a powerful spell like Eldritch Blast as a cantrip. You could also do the same thing with the feat Magic Initiate Sorcerer, which is also based in charisma. You could pick up Magic Missiles, which is an amazing spell to have considering it has a 100% chance to hit no matter what. Chromatic Orb might be another good option, but you can also pick up new cantrips depending on what race you picked in the beginning. Like if you picked Tiefling and you didn't get Firebolt, you could get it here, or Shock and Grasp, or Ray of Frost. There are lots of excellent choices here. A Valor Bard has a lot of great options too, like picking Shieldmaster for a +2 bonus to dexterity saving throws when wearing a shield. Even on failed saves, you'll only take half damage, so it's pretty nice. Taking Martial Adept allows you to learn 2 moves from the fighter's Battle Master. Rally is super powerful, allowing you to heal yourself or an ally for 8 HP. Anything else is really good to pick here except for Riposte, but I'm partial to Trip Attack and Disarming Attack. Whatever you pick, your bard will certainly be coming into their own by level 4, and I found my nasty little spell-slinging songstress was wrecking her foes every which way. I'm really curious to see what changes from the mod, if anything, will be implemented when patch 8 drops, and if we'll actually get Glamour Bard. I'm thinking there's a really good chance that we will, and regardless, this guide will still be 100% for all the colleges I mentioned, but you might find there are some additional skills added here and there that aren't officially in the D&D handbook. As I mentioned earlier, I'm definitely going to make an updated guide, especially if there's anything major that changes with the patch release. I do plan to make more of these guides going forward too, so let me know what you guys are having the most trouble with playing, and I'll make a guide advising you on how best to play it. As is, wizard, rogue, and druid can be pretty cheesy. Honestly, every class can do really well if built right. Also, if any of you didn't see the community post, I'm going to be streaming the Panel from Hell live on my channel this Thursday, so you can come hang out for the panel party right here, and we can find out what's in store for the game together. It's my first time streaming the event, so I'm really looking forward to seeing you all there. Let me give a huge shout out to my Patreons. They're awesome, and I love them. These are the people who really help keep my channel afloat, and they also give me endless inspiration and motivation to keep making content. After asking everyone what days worked best for streaming, it looks like Monday is a definite keeper, and that day works really well for me too. So consider Monday my concrete streaming day, unless there's a holiday like we just had. My other 2 days are going to probably alternate between Thursday and Saturday, depending on what's going on that week. So let's see how that goes. I almost forgot to mention that if you'd like a text version of this Bard guide, I actually put one together on my Patreon as a public link. You can find the link below in the info section. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy future barding. I'll see you later.